up, Mike. Toronto. VK on the beat. Check. I'm in Toronto where you wanna get a city love. I'm from Toronto where you wanna get a city love. I'm in Toronto like we wanna get a city love. My city love me back for my city love.
Welcome to episode 1630 of Toronto Mic'd, proudly brought to you by Great Lakes Brewery, a fiercely independent craft brewery who believes in supporting communities, good times, and brewing amazing beer. Order online for free local home delivery in the GTA. Palma Pasta. Enjoy the taste of fresh, homemade Italian pasta and entrees from Palma Pasta in Mississauga and Oakville. RecycleMyElectronics.ca. Committing to our planet's future means properly recycling our electronics of the past. Building Toronto's Skyline, a podcast and book from Nick Aini's, sponsored by Fusion Corp Construction Management Inc. and Redley Funeral Home, pillars of the community since 1921. Joining me today, and he brought me a coffee. He's making his Toronto Mike debut. It's Scott Dobson. Welcome, Scott. Welcome to Toronto Mike making your debut. It was you don't have to give me all the details, but it was a difficult experience to get here to New Toronto.
I love New Toronto, but it was a little difficult.
Not today.
No. I still love it. It's just I forgot my phone, and the phone had your address, and I was trying to do it from memory.
Right. And okay, so without giving too many details, because only Sir Jerry can do that, I will, you were close, but you were on the wrong street. And because you had no phone, I guess you walked into like a beauty parlor or something?
I went into Meg's Hair Loft nearby, and the great people there hooked me up with a phone and a quick haircut, and then I waited for you to get back to me.
Yeah, I get an email from you, and it's like, it's from the hair place, and it's like, you're at the hair place. I'm like, what's Scott doing at this hair salon in New Toronto? Like, did he want to look pretty for me?
Look good
because Valentine's Day is only a couple of days away.
Yeah, I wanted to look my best, but it was funny. Like I was walking around, like trying to find someone on the street with a cell phone, trying to find a store that was open, because it's still, early.
Yeah, it's like 10.
And it was like Omega Man with Charlton Heston. Like I'm the last man left in New Toronto, and I'm walking around like there must be one other human being here.
Well, that's funny. Yeah. Okay. Well, it's
good.
It's a cold day. Maybe people are hankered down inside. Okay, but good to meet you. We have had like an email relationship where you're very engaged, which I love, and you'd recommend guests and stuff. And I think, if my memory's correct, like you were recommending a guest, and I said, okay, but how about Scott Dobson dropping by? And here you are.
Yeah, that's how it. And I still think of people actually, and during the course of the day, who I think would be great on your show.
Which I appreciate, because sometimes, and there are a number of listeners, I'll say, who like to recommend lots of names, and sometimes I know that person, and sometimes I don't. But whenever someone recommends somebody that they think would sound excellent on Toronto Mic'd, if I don't know who they are, now I go and figure out, who is this person? Like, there are these people. I have blind spots. You have a couple of years on me, and there might be certain personalities in this city that just simply I just missed.
I mean, I know that I've suggested a couple of folks to you. Could I name a name?
Yeah.
I was saying like Patty Habib, who was one of the co-owners of the Bamboo. There's a whole bit of Toronto story in there. We were talking about John Harris, who runs the Harris Institute.
Which I have definitely sent an email to John first. I mean,
you've never had, I'm thinking, because I'm a doc maker. I'm also thinking of Barry Cohen. I mean, she's an amazing doc maker and opinionated person. It would be great to have us again. Anyways.
No, so I appreciate that, and then it's nice to put a face to the name, and I'm glad you wore your trademark hat.
Yes.
Is that a derby? What is that hat called?
Well, it's part of the fedora family, but it's
But that's like your look, right? You're like Fred Penner there with the hat.
Yeah, you're giving me a lot of credit and calling it a look, as if there's some planning involved.
Scott
in it.
branding.
My personal shoppers help me out with this stuff. And
is that Dave Bedini? I feel like Bedini rocks the hat.
No, he's more of a Jocko Thomas type.
Okay.
No,
I find Bedini's morphing into Fred Penner. Slowly but surely.
Yeah, the beard, I get it.
So we're going to, because you were late, because of all the days, why do you typically leave the home going somewhere you've never been before without a phone? Or was this just I'm surprised you forgot your phone.
Well, I was the reason I forgot my phone was I was actually just bringing a couple items here in case we needed some props or some humorous things to talk about.
Well, why start now?
I even brought a picture of me at Heatwave in 1980 just because I knew you would like it.
Okay, Heatwave. We're going to Heatwave. Firstly, where's my coffee from?
Oh, this is from Birds and Beans.
Okay, that's a Mimico institution.
Yeah, okay. Nice people there.
Shout out to Mimico. I bike by Birds and Beans all the time. And
would it be a mistake, though, if I accidentally got it wrong and called part of New Toronto Mimico and called part of...
I would probably rough you up.
Those are fighting words.
See that blood on the wall?
Those are fighting words around here.
Previous guests have told me, oh, it's nice to be in Mimico. And I literally, I look like I'm not particularly strong, but I get angry and I grab them by the scruff of their collar and I pin them against the wall and I'm like, this is New Toronto.
They spent a lot of time coming up with the name New Toronto. A lot of times on that name.
I can envision they had community consultations.
What should we name it?
We're like Toronto, but we're newer.
Yeah.
Well, let's call it New Toronto. They didn't know Google was going to be a thing at some point. The SEO on New Toronto is terrible.
What is the official dividing line?
Oh, Dwight. So you know where the McDonald's is?
Yeah.
So that's Dwight Street.
Okay.
And Dwight is so once you get to numbered streets, you're in New Toronto. There's no numbered streets in Mimico. That's what I would say. So once you get to the numbers...
On Dwight Street, is it sort of like Bloods and Crips? They each keeps to one side of the road?
There's a gentleman named Adam Bunch who came over. He's a Toronto historian who did tell the story of the battles. On Dwight Street, you'd have the New Toronto people and the Mimico, and they'd riot and fight, and it was like... a hootenanny there, man. A hootenanny? No, that's more of a party, right? This is like a
blood feud.
A throwdown, right? Blood feud.
Is that true?
Yeah. Well, Adam wouldn't lie to me. This guy's got integrity to lose. I feel like he's done his homework, so I believe it to be true. And shout out to the VP of Sales who's at live.torontomike.com because he lives in Mimico and he knows. You gotta ask my permission before you cross the border, right? You just can't go back and forth without blessings. So, all right, lots of ground I want to cover with you. And I'm going to start, I know where I want to start actually, and I don't know which of these three, but, and you're the producer here. If you think I'm playing the wrong one, you tell me, but.
I'm swelling.
That's what the Ridley Funeral Home measuring tape's for. Measure the swell.
I love that this intro is so long.
Well, you can talk it up if you want, or you want people to feel the...
No. There's a sea of people. Perhaps 200,000 of them. They're gathered along the jagged edge of an awesome chasm. It's close to a mile wide and almost as deep. In the center of it all is a man, dressed in white leather and strapped into a rocket-like machine that is poised on its launching ramp.
It's not
a gleaming
Jesus.
red, white, and blue missile aimed at the other side.
I hope it's not Trump.
A tap on the helmet. Someone mumbles, "Good luck." The machine is detonated, and he's on his way. Science fiction?
For sure.
No.
Because Evel Knievel, the most famous daredevil in the world today, is actually going to jump Idaho's incredible Snake River Canyon on his sky cycle. Why? We might just as well ask why Columbus sailed off to what everyone at the time thought was certain.
We might as well do that.
Why Charles Lindbergh crossed the Atlantic in a single-engine plane. Why the astronauts shot for the moon. Each of them, like Knievel, possessed or was possessed by the desire and the ability to do something no one else had ever done before.
Wow.
Unlike a fighter or racer who competes to win against another fighter or racer, Knievel has only one ever-present competitor.
You'll never guess.
Death.
Wow. Have you ever had the pleasure of seeing Evel Knievel?
Yes, I did.
Please tell me.
That recording is from a record that he did in the spring of 1974, and I went to see him at the C&E August 20th, 74, and so that would be just over 50 years ago, and It was hard. It's hard to explain now. Just sort of like Evel Knievel was sort of like a Cardassian. Like he was a guy that like everyone in the world knew. It was sort of like Muhammad Ali was, was one guy that everyone knew, and Evel Knievel was another person that everyone seemed to know. And it's interesting because I think Muhammad Ali was a wee bit more talented, but nonetheless, but they were both showmen.
Right.
And I think that the showman thing was really very much kind of part of the 70s. There's a real 70s showmanship kind of thing. And so I said to my dad, we got to go. We got to go see Evel at the C&E. And I'm sure my dad went out and bought the tickets immediately for $10 each.
Well, $10 in 74 is a lot of money.
But I suspect that my dad did not tell me that he had purchased them for months, which meant that I was on my best behavior for needlessly for a few months, and taking the garbage out, helping my mom, doing all that stuff, just because I so desperately wanted to go and see this.
Is this the Lighthouse?
Yeah.
So Lighthouse opens for Evel Knievel at the C&E in August 1974.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that was when they used that concrete shell that they pulled out with a tractor, right? And then Lighthouse played for 2 hours. And then when it was over, like a guy got on the tractor, started it up, and they pulled the stage away. Like it was kind of funny, actually. It was the first time I ever saw pop music live.
Okay, well, you would be a young man in 1974.
Yeah, I was about 11.
Okay, so, but here's where I'm not going to call you out on your own life history here, but don't you see Van Morrison before you see this Evel Knievel Lighthouse show?
Ah, very good question, and I will give you an excellent answer. I said pop music concert.
Oh, you don't consider Van Morrison pop music?
Van Morrison was just getting into his Scientology trippy stage then with giant belt buckles and I don't know that whole sort of thing.
Right.
But yeah, so my dad had worked at U of T, so I had this incredible thing that my dad loved music, so I went to see all of these shows when I was like 9, 10, 11. Harry Chapin, Melissa Manchester, Van Morrison. Al Stewart, like all these really great concerts at Convocation Hall and places like that.
Right.
But the Lighthouse show was the first show that I actually went to where I went, oh, I know these songs. I've heard these songs on the radio. And I kind of clued in, like people actually really do pay money to go see bands that you hear on the radio. It never really occurred to me. I never thought about it.
Well, you were a very young man. Yeah, you were cluing in. But I think it's like as a guy who was born I was literally born that summer. So you're at Lighthouse. And Lighthouse is opening for Evel Knievel. Yeah. So it's just, my brain's trying to wrap around the fact. So the Lighthouse goes a couple of hours and then the stunt man comes out.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that people forget about, when they think of Evel Knievel, they think, oh, he's going to, he comes out, he does his jump. But no, this is the 70s. There's a whole staged performance thing that he did. So when he comes out,
right,
all of his cars come out. And he's in one of them, including like a Cadillac that he's got.
Right.
And then at the very end of this convoy, as in the song Convoy, is his Mack truck traveling camper motorcycle rig that he had. It was like a 2-trailer rig that was all painted red and said Evel Knievel on the side.
Wow.
And then there's stunts. He comes out and he does like a whole sort of like, I'm part of the gladiator tradition kind of thing. And then Robbie and Kelly, his sons, came out and performed for the first time ever in public in Toronto.
Wow.
And they did all these wheelies and stunts. And it's just trying to get you more hyped up and more hyped and, And then, of course, and Evel, as he always did, does this big anti-drug message about how like drugs are going to ruin your life. But this is the 70s because at the same time, he tells you that if he dies, he has his own special version of heaven that he wants to go to where there's lots of draft beer. Because I think in the 70s, no one thought of alcohol as a drug.
Right.
So he's telling you, he lays down this big, anti-drug thing.
That's funny.
But in real life, he was an alcoholic.
Okay, a few quick hits here. One is that song Convoy.
Oh, yeah.
We got a great big
Yeah,
convoy.
McCall. W.C. McCall? I think?
W.C. McCall, something like that.
Yeah.
But I was first introduced to that song because it was played in an episode of The Simpsons when Bart gets that. And I think I had one of these too. Like it's a microphone you talk into, and you pick a frequency on your
Yep.
radio that wasn't used by Chum or whatever.
Yeah.
And then you could hear yourself through the radio, which was kind of a novelty back then. And I think there's in the ad somebody singing Convoy or Homer, maybe Homer singing Convoy. But
Yeah.
then that's when I heard Convoy for the first time. And that's probably like 1990 or so.
I'm happy to tell you I still have one of those microphones and I still use it.
Okay, what frequency do you use? Do we have anything open still?
Yeah, I didn't. I didn't bring it. I don't know what it. I don't know what frequency it's on.
I think you can pick it. I don't even remember now. But
I have
never...
a two. I actually have two. I have like a vintage one from the 1960s. It's Italian, and then I have one from the 70s, and it's like a Mr. Disco or something, and it has glitter on it.
I mean, like I said, you have a couple years on me, but like I remember the 70s, and I can tell you in the 80s, which is like when I'm really growing up, that's a huge novelty that you could be on the radio by talking into a microphone like that. I mean, how exciting is that? You're right there with Tom Rivers.
Yeah, it's funny when you think of things that like we've forgotten that people thought were marvels of technology at the time.
Right.
But if you're an 80s child, you probably had one of those telephone tone generator boxes. So if you weren't at home, you could phone back to your answering machine, put in the tones, and get it to play you the messages. Remember those?
That was so high tech. I don't even think it entered my home, but that's highly impressive. Okay.
That was considered an advance.
What is the Evel Knievel song where he name checks Toronto?
Well, it's actually not a song, but he on that record, there's a press conference. Like all these guys always have this thing where they have to do something with kids because it makes them more human. So there's
seems that everywhere
this is his
in this world I go,
this is not it.
No, this is
no
his
matter
ballad.
who or what I know,
This is called Why.
the people, they look,
What a time.
It's a poem he
most
wrote.
of them stare. And I
Okay,
wonder
but
if
no
they care.
Toronto reference
No.
in this one.
No.
Okay, and it's
Seaver's
not in the
King,
ballad of
Golden
Evel
Crown.
Knievel
No,
either.
no, it's
Here, maybe
in-
I'll put this in the background. Well, I mentioned that a few things. You mentioned draft beer. Well, I'm here to tell you, Scott, we drink craft beer in New Toronto.
From day to day,
Who's singing this one?
never thinking
An unknown guy.
about tomorrow.
This is
It doesn't matter.
His body shows the scars.
Does this say 70s or what?
His way.
Wow. Move over, ballad of
The strong
Tom
yet
Henke.
simple man,
This strong but simple
riding
man.
on the edge of danger, secure in prayers that God has heard him say. He can move a mountain, leap across a winding river. Once he's made his mind up, there's nothing he won't try. There's something deep inside him, lusting for the thrills that drive him. Yet he knows someday he's gonna have to face that canyon in the sky.
Wow. Yeah, you know what?
What candy in the
This up
sky?
This is candy for a kid. Okay, so so that's where I was going. I'm giving you some Great Lakes beer brewed right here in South Etobicoke. It's available across this fine province. Great Lakes, thank you for your support. So you're going to get that craft beer.
Right on. Then I'm going to get on a motorcycle.
Do you own a motorcycle? Have you ever ridden a motorcycle?
Have I ever been in a motorcycle?
Like ridden one?
Yeah, I have. I actually had an uncle that collected motorcycles, and he specialized in police motorcycles, which are kind of an interesting subcategory of collecting. You know, but it's interesting though. This is so schmaltzy that it's just.
It's cheese, right? Like,
It's
but sometimes
cheese.
you want to eat cheese.
But it's pure cheese. But it's, you know, if you weren't alive at the time, it's like people took him like quite seriously at the time, and it's funny because when you look at the jump in Toronto now, or some of the other jumps that he did, and I say this respectfully to the ghost of Evel Knievel, but
Yeah.
it's really not that impressive. But at the time, like 13 Mack trucks, you watch him jump it in Toronto, and you kind of go, okay.
Well, I guess it's like a rare opportunity to maybe see somebody die.
Yes, I think there was.
Like, that's exciting.
It came out of the barnstorming, like country fair kind of entertainment circuit. That's kind of
Right.
where he came from in a lot of
Right.
ways, right? But you watch it on YouTube, and you can watch it in slow motion, and you kind of go, okay, I might almost be able to do that. But for some reason, like, people thought that jumping 13 Mack trucks was like Columbus discovering a new world, as they say in that little prologue. I don't know why people like elevated it so big.
Well, you know, we were starving for entertainment back then, so this was something. It was
also during the Watergate era, and there was like a lot of sort of like social kind of, you know, people weren't happy, inflation, stagflation, all of that stuff. So they were looking for a hero. They couldn't
get gasoline. Yeah,
looking for a hero.
Looking for a hero. I want to hear about Heat Wave. I absolutely want to hear about Heat Wave, and then I want to ask you about being the king of indie music videos. I mean, so much ground. Again, you're a little late, so we're going to cook with gas here. But tell me about Heat Wave in August 1980.
You want to remember the slogan for that show was, "It's going to be so hot," and it was really hot. But it was, you know, it was supposed to be like, you know, the big, like, new wave in quotation, new waves, Woodstock. And because you know, it was only like an hour and a bit drive away. It was from where I was, you know, living. It was like, I'm going.
Sure.
Yeah, and it was interesting because I sort of went with people that were maybe not
just north of Bowmanville, right?
It's in Mosport,
right?
Yeah, it was near the racetrack, and it was. And it was funny because the first thing I remember is that they had a big, when you got to the grounds, they had a big police cordon and no bottles. You weren't allowed to bring a bottle. And then they had one guy at a little card table selling Tupperware. So someone knew, right? One rich guy made $1 million selling Tupperware. And if you poured your booze into the Tupperware, the cops would let you in. And if you didn't want to do that, then they had this big bin that they just had to toss it into. But yeah, the only thing about that concert, I mean, it was a lot of fun, a little disorganized, super hot. Also not as commercialized as concerts became. So it still kind of had a little bit of a, I wouldn't say hippie, but a little bit of a, I don't know, homemade kind of vibe to it, which I think fits with the new wave thing.
I've had on this program a couple of founding members of the Kings.
Yep.
And did you stick around for the Kings?
Yeah, you know, I did stick around for the Kings. You know, the people I went with, my friends, were not as into the music. I think they were more into the idea of going. And so at the end, when the headliner, Elvis Costello, came on,
right,
they were bored and wanted to go. And then the Kings came on as sort of the denouement act of the festival, and I'm like, hey man, I paid money, I want to see the Kings.
You want full value. You want to hear the beat goes on, switch and a glide.
Yeah. But it was sad. It was kind of a bit of a drag because a lot of people started to leave. Well,
that was midnight, right? When I think
it was late.
It's midnight when the Kings hit the stage.
Yeah, it was late, and I think people had that. How do we get out of the parking lot was basically farmers' fields filled with cars, and I think there was a lot of people started to panic about how long.
And you just saw Elvis Costello, and I could see a mass exodus.
Yeah, he was that was his only appearance at Heat Wave. I think, the Heat Wave one, I think, was the only appearance he did in North America that year or something. But
yes.
But the rest of the lineup, I have to say, I'm a big Elvis Costello fan, but I have to be honest. I thought that Elvis was a little bit of a, you know, after Rockpile, B-52s, The Pretenders,
Talking
Heads did an amazing groovy. Elvis kind of seemed a little bit of a step down in energy and everything, even though I loved him. Yeah, it was a pretty good lineup. The only thing is the Clash, as you know, didn't make it, and that would have been that would have topped it off incredibly.
How was Teenage Head?
Good. You know, and they were you've had
Well, Dave Ray was on this day 1 year ago. This day, and here's my Gene Champagne. He's now the drummer. Gene Champagne gave me these Teenage Head drumsticks. But yeah, Dave Ray was here 1 year ago today to talk about his experience with the band, and he's now the singer.
Yeah, Dave is one of the nicest people you will ever meet in the industry.
Oh my goodness!
There's a picture of me at Heat Wave, and I'm holding, which I still have, my official Heat Wave Frisbee. And you know when it was made because it lists the Clash on it, and they didn't appear.
Right.
So it's amazing. So it's a collector's item.
You still have it?
Yeah.
Okay. Amazing.
I've hardly even used it.
Okay,
And-
very cool. But go ahead.
I just want to say Dave, just about Dave.
Yeah.
I mean, I made a video with him with his Dave Rave Conspiracy. We went to Russia and had a pretty cool adventure. But
You went to Russia with Dave Rave.
yeah.
Wow. When was this?
So I guess this was 91. It was right around that. It was right during the coup time. And so we didn't really know when we got there if there was going to be anybody there.
Right.
Like what was
Like New Toronto.
Yeah, like New Toronto, and it's funny because when we got to St. Petersburg, there was another town right next to it called Mimiko, which is very, very strange, very strange. And Dave had been signed through, like Dave Rave is this. The one funny thing about Dave is you just never know where you're going to end up with him.
Right.
And so somehow he got signed to the Russian state record label Melodia. How do you do that? I have no idea. And that's why we went.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so this kind of ties in nicely where I want to go next with you. Like, there's so many, and again, I haven't even really established that who the hell is this guy, Scott Dobson, right? Like, I'm like, this guy emailed me suggestions for guests, and I just randomly said, you should come over and have an episode. No, man, it's this production work. I have notes. I want to ask you about everything from like Lee Aaron to SCTV.
Yeah.
But I do want to know about this moniker, King of Indie Music Video. So tell us about basically videos that you've directed. Music videos.
Yeah,
of
there
course.
was, hard to believe, but there was a time when music videos were actually kind of, they were the deal. And if you were a music video director, like that was kind of a cool thing.
Sure.
And now everyone just uses their 360 cam and makes their own videos. But
Right. They use their iPhone.
But during that period of time, I don't know if you've ever talked about this on the show, but they really wanted to establish a Canadian music video industry, and they created Bravo Fact as part of Much Music getting off the ground. And Bravo Fact was kind of run, the main person that ran it was a wonderful person, no longer with us, named Julie Thorburn. And her thing was to outreach to not only to bands, but to directors and try and build an industry of people making videos and crews and directors making them. And I think it was actually quite successful. And they granted money to help bands do videos. And that's sort of where I got my start making videos.
And you were working originally with Roy Pike.
Yeah, I had gone to OCA, and then I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, and I met Roy through his wife, and Roy had a little production company called Sensibility, and Roy was a clever, quirky, creative guy, a little bit off kilter. And he hired me to be his assistant, and he was making music videos, and I learned a lot of great ways to get good production value out of small dollars from him. And so he kind of got me going until I could get out on my own. So
Do you want to name check anybody? Well, it's, common knowledge on this program. The first concert I ever saw was at the Ontario Place Forum, and it was Chalk Circle back in 85. So Roy Pike directed videos for Chalk Circle?
Yeah, I did 20th Century Boy for Chalk Circle, did a video for Johnny Lovesin, did the famous video for The Box, the one that's like the French film. Everyone calls the song Say To Me, but that's not the name of the song. But it's like a murder investigation as a music video. I think it's one of the coolest videos ever made in Canada. And I was so excited to be working with Roy because I loved that video. Wow. And then he's done stuff with everyone from Boot Sauce to...
You know what we say in this program? We say fuck boot sauce. That's what we say.
Why?
Were boot sauce good to you? Did you work with boot sauce?
I worked with them a little bit.
Good guys?
I have no bad Boot Sauce vibes.
Okay, so you do not sign off on that terrible sentiment. And I should just point out with my tongue in my cheek, I've actually never met the guys from Boot Sauce. And if they ever want to come on Toronto Mic'd and talk, I would happily have them on. But I have heard a couple of stories from people like Ron Hawkins and Art Bergman that led to that expression being coined. But I'm sure they're lovely guys. I have to meet them and make my own judgments here.
I give you an example of Roy Pike thinking at the time, where
Sure.
something that I learned is I remember we were filming down by the C&E when it was on with Johnny Lovesin, and then Roy went, "Hey, wait a minute, the fireworks are going to go off soon. Everyone climb up onto the roof." and we climb onto the roof of this building on Fraser Avenue and try and figure out where the fireworks are going to be in the sky. And then Johnny has to stand up on this like stupid brick thing and hold his balance, play guitar, and sing a song called "Oh, She's a Lady Tonight" or something while the fireworks are going off. But when you see the video, you go, "Oh man, look at that shot with all the fireworks."
Amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, so you almost a good mentor there in Roy Pike. So meanwhile, so you're working with Roy Pike, you're supporting yourself, you're bartending at the Bamboo Club.
Yeah.
But you decide you're going to go off on your own.
Yeah.
And I'm dying to know, name check like crazy, because I know there's some FOTMs
You know who
on
it was
this list.
who I blame everything for is Andrew Cash.
Andrew Cash.
Yeah, so I was hanging out at the Bev, and I was going to OCA, you know, and so most of my friends were bands. And as they sort of kind of went up the ladder a bit, they knew I was taking film at OCA, and they were like, hey, Scott's the only guy we know that knows how to use a film camera. I need to do a video. And my phone rang, and Andrew, or Andy as I called him at the time, called me and said, well, let's do a video. And it was just at the end of L'Étranger.
Yeah.
Before L'Étranger bit the dust and Andrew Cash was created. So I did a Trail of Tears for that. And then eventually I went on when he became Andrew Cash. I went...
The Boomtown era?
Yeah, I did Time and Place for that record, for Island Records. But sort of in that just post-Andrew thing, it was literally like a virus. Went off and did, Ballad of Wendell Clark with the Rheostatics.
Can I say, I love the video because I can see Old Mill Donuts there.
Yeah.
And it's like, hasn't been Old Mill Donuts, but when I was growing up on Dundas, and I went to Michael Power, the original location, it was still around at that time. But I love the views of old Etobicoke in that video.
That video is filled with just people on the street who had no idea who the Rheostatics were, but just liked a bunch of guys wearing plaid jackets and would come over and want to be in the video. Like we're out in front of the grocery store and the lady says, I look beautiful in that video. And there's the little model of the Stanley Cup on the hood of a car, and the focus pulls from an Etobicoke guy washing his car to the Stanley Cup.
I love it. Like I legit love it so much. And there's a name check for FOTM Dave Hodge in that song.
Yeah.
And Dave Hodge says it's the only time he's been name checked in a song.
Is that true?
That's what he says.
Wow, I find that hard to believe, but okay.
Well, some people say, oh, it's surprising he got a name check at all. Like, it's strange, but it's so brilliantly done. We mentioned Bedini earlier. It's funny that we did that.
We shot that. We literally shot that video, I think in a day.
Wow.
And we shot it on Betacam because we couldn't afford film. And we drove around, I think it was Dave's parents' gigantic Parisienne or something. We all fit everyone into 2 vehicles and drove around. That was our production crew.
That's an iconic Toronto video, and I think it's got that name, Ballad of Wendell Clark Parts 1 and 2, right?
Yeah. It's a great song.
It's a great song, but now say fast and frenetic here, but we mentioned Andrew Cash, and I would be remiss if I didn't mention that his L'Étranger bandmate, Charlie Angus, was over here recently, and I am of the belief Charlie Angus should run in the next election, and should when they have eventually when the NDP party has their leadership race or whatever at some point, Andrew Cash, Charlie Angus would make a great leader of the NDP party federally.
I don't know. I might be voting for L'Étranger's drummer Pete Duffin to run.
Right.
Yeah, I think maybe he should run. Yeah, no, I totally could see something like that with Chuck, but I kind of get the feeling from him that he wants to sort of be unshackled from being a member of a political party and wants to speak his mind a little more clear,
Right. Well, he's definitely saying that for sure.
Yeah.
But so get
back to his activist roots.
Right. He's great for sound bites, because I had him over and then I'm running the video, and the sound bites I got from, it's like, oh my God, here's another one. They're under a minute. They're just, he's got these well rehearsed, right? So he came over, and then I think later that week he was on the agenda, and he had some of these things were verbatim, word for word. He's just got that patter down, like he's Ron James or something. So so go Charlie though. I love what he's doing here. I dropped some more names on me. It's my most recent guest was a guy, Sir Jerry Levitan.
Yeah.
Super tight with Mike Myers to a point where he has promised he will personally invite Mike Myers on Toronto Mic'd. This probably won't happen, but Mike Myers' brother has been on Toronto Mic'd, Paul Myers.
Yeah, I know Paul and Mike well.
And you directed videos for Paul.
I did 2 videos for him, yeah. Felt This Way Before, and, I can't remember the other one, actually, off the top of my head, but And Paul was a friend from high school as well, and still is a friend. I was just communicating with him a couple days ago, and he's a polyglot of things. That guy.
Well, he's got a John Candy book coming out.
Yeah. Well, it's coming out
because we're going to talk SCTV in a minute.
Yeah, it's coming out like super soon, like within days, I think.
Wow, and I know he did the Kids in the Hall book, which
it was good.
Great. Yeah, no, I got a lot of time for him, and FOTM Blair Packham was house sitting for him last summer.
Yeah, Blair's a good guy. You only have good people on your show.
Well, I don't know if that's true. I got to run. It's a long list.
Oh, wait a minute. You had a politician another politician from Toronto a while back.
Brad Bradford.
Oh, never mind. I'm not saying anything.
See, we make time for everybody. I will shout out, Marcy Ian will be here next week. So speaking of politicians, not that I want this show to become political. It sounds really boring to me. Like I wouldn't even listen to my own show. But there are this is a different time we're living in right now. So there's a little more political talk than normal. There's a provincial election we're having at the end of the month, and then as we know, there's going to be a new leader of the Liberal Party, which means a new prime minister, and then at some point this year that we'll go to the polls federally, and of course we have our sovereignty is being threatened by the President of the United States of America. I don't know if you've caught wind of that.
I've heard a little bit about it.
So lots going on here. Okay, drop a few more names here because another recent guest was Manfred from Elephants and Stars, and his new album was produced by Ian Blurden.
Oh, yeah. Ian and I went to high school together, so I did a Change of Heart video.
Okay, this is the alternative high school, right?
Yeah.
What's it called again?
So it's called Seed, and it's still going.
Well, I hear about it from guests like Ian and others, and can you explain to the listenership like what was different about Seed as opposed to I went to Humberside Collegiate or whatever?
Well, the people that went to Seed was born in like 1968, and it was kind of connected to the whole concept of free schools, which was a big movement that was going on in the UK at this school called Summerhill. But it was an idea where you could create a school where students that had difficulty fitting in a regular school could go and be kind of educate themselves in ways that worked for them. And also to help with that, they had this idea that they would not only have teachers from the Board of Ed there, but they would bring in experts in their fields. Like Judith Merrill, the science fiction writer, came in and taught like a science fiction class at Seed. And they called them catalysts. And that was a whole new concept, the idea that you'd have people who were experts in a field coming into a classroom and doing a class.
Wow.
And so Seed was a place where high achievers could go if they really knew what they wanted to do, or people who were, having trouble fitting in regular school or being bullied, or, people who might have been, their sexual orientation might have been an issue. They were safe at Seed. And it's that way to this day.
And is it true? I mean, a little birdie tells me you might be researching a documentary on Seed Alternative School.
Yeah, I've been thinking for quite a while about doing a documentary about Seed because it was really something born out of the 1960s that has lasted until today, and I think it's been a huge success. And I think it's something that that rarely gets mentioned in the press. You rarely read about Seed at all anywhere. And yet there's so many amazing alumni that have gone on to do so many things from that school.
Well, you had me at Ian Blurden.
Yeah, Ian Blurden. So I actually, one of my things about, I'm researching doing a documentary on Seed and what it started as and what it became. I think it's going to be possible for me to do the entire film and have the entire crew of the film be Seed alumni, which goes, something like
Seedlings.
that. Seedlings is what we were called. And I think that the power of it is that Seed has morphed every decade as the needs of students have changed for different reasons. For example, more acceptance of trans students now.
For sure.
Seed has adapted to be welcoming for those folks too. And so I think and I think it will continue to evolve. So if anyone has any great Seed footage, by the way, I'd love to get my hands on it.
I would tune into the Seedlings documentary without a doubt.
I think, I think that would be a great doc, and it's perfect for TVO.
You know what? 100%.
Yeah.
Just like that, the Teenage Head doc, which was very good. There's a lot of great docs
think
there on TVO.
I do think that TVO would be an excellent place for that doc.
Should I
to
call
live.
Pagan now, or do you want me to do it later?
Just after. Yeah.
But so Ian Blurden, Change of Heart.
Yeah.
They got new music coming out, and they're playing on Geary Avenue.
Yeah.
I got to get to the show, actually. It's a smaller venue. I got to see if I can sneak in the back door or something here. It might be sold out. But, man, I love Change of Heart. Which video did you
I did
direct?
did Pat's Decline.
I love that song.
Yeah, it's a great song. You know, and Ian has like morphed and changed like in so many ways musically over the years, and yet he has remained like completely committed to what he's doing.
Oh, yeah.
and completely like Blurton is its own category.
Blurtonia.
Yeah, Blurtonia. Yeah, it is its own thing.
And he bikes, so shout out to Ian Blurden on his bike. So,
Yeah,
I love that guy.
I just saw, last time I saw Ian was with another seedling, Catherine Rose. I saw him at Junior Gone Wild show at the Horseshoe.
In Junior Gone Wild, speaking of Junior Gone
I think
Wild,
I did.
you
about
did like 5 videos.
I think I
for-
did 5 videos for those guys.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was interesting, you know, being a guy from Toronto, going out and doing 5 videos for a band from Edmonton. You know,
Hey, we have an Edmontonian 2 floors above us right now, and she's taking me. By the way, taking me on a romantic early Valentine's Day lunch, which is why we're cooking with gas here, because I can't be late for that. That could be good. But she's from Edmonton. But so the 2 big points I want to get before we do a little more. And again, I'm blaming you, Scott, because you were late, because I was going to give you an easy 90 minutes, and I'm going to try to get as close as I can. But can you tell me about your relationship with Lee Aaron, the Metal Queen?
Lee Aaron. Well, we're sort of in the early pre-production stages of trying to do a documentary with Lee. Lee's in Vancouver these days, lives out there.
Right.
And trying to do a documentary, get that off the ground. We'll be at Hot Docs this spring, pitching away to broadcasters for that. So we're just getting our pitch materials put together. We got a bit of a development grant from Hot Docs Slate Fund, which is excellent.
I saw the press release and I said, "Oh, and you were in the calendar before I saw it." I'm like, "Oh, I'm gonna ask Scott about this."
So that's
the Aaron documentary.
Yeah, so that's great. And so I've been sort of hanging out and catching Lee for the last year or so on the road. Did some filming with her at the Hall of Fame at Massey Hall when she was inducted 2 years ago.
Wow.
And you know, seeing her play like at the Classic Bowl place out in Mississauga, that's a trip.
I haven't been yet, but the
it's a
guy
trip.
behind it has been over here to talk about everything, but I haven't actually.
You got to go.
Okay.
It's kind of like another dimension, but in a good way.
I would go just to see the spoons.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's good. They have a really diverse kind of lineup of stuff there. I mean, and when he has his big annual
And it's
one,
Ed Souza we're talking about.
Ed Souza, when Ed has his big annual charitable fundraiser, I mean, it like takes over. Like they literally practically rip out the bowling.
for the McDonald's house.
Yeah, I mean, it's in a
Ronald
bowling,
McDonald
it's in a
House.
bowling alley center. So you're thinking, where do they put the show? Well, they build this whole thing like over. It's really quite something, actually.
Well, now that we've mentioned Lee Aaron, I am contractually obligated to shout out Midtown Gord, who's listening in Midtown, of all places, hence the nickname given to him by Gord Stellick. Were you ever a sports fan?
Yep.
I'm going to play very quickly here. I'm just going to play this.
23, Doug Gilmore. Assist number 23,
Second
Todd Gill.
overtime. 2-1. The goal by Gilmore. 3:16.
So you do have the late great Bob Cole talking over that, but that's the Paul Morris call of the Gilmore wraparound against Cujo and the St. Louis Blues in the second round there. And I played it because we lost Paul Morris, passed away, and that voice, I don't know about you, but that voice is tattooed in my brain, and I've been mimicking it since I was a kid. You know, goals, whatever. You play ball hockey, whatever, goal scored. And what I'm trying to think, what is it? And it's because there is no homerism at all to a point where that goal, you heard him call an overtime winner in the playoffs by the home team, Doug Gilmore, and he calls it the same way he'd call like a preseason goal by the opposition. Like it's just a monotone delivery style and no homerism at all. And it just tattooed in my brain.
You could actually, that would be a good AI, simulate his voice for other for other things. I have a friend named Scott Kerchak, and when we would go to the games, he would actually insist on staying to hear Paul do the post-game wrap-up, where he would go through all the stats, and we'd be the only people still in the stands. My friend would be listening to it.
Love it. Just a little taste more. I'll do more of this on a future episode.
Toronto goal scored by number 19, Frederick Modine. Assist number 32, Steve Thomas. And number 25, Jason Smith. Time 54 seconds. It's home.
So there's a little tiny little documentary feature that aired on Hockey Night in Canada, but I'll play that in a future episode. I just wanted to pay my respects to a significant Toronto voice that I guess he had that gig until they moved to the Air Canada Centre. So he had it until 1999, and it was Andy Frost. I also do an imitation of Andy Frost. But do you do an Andy Frost impression?
No.
No Psychedelic Sunday, Andy Frost. But Andy Frost got the gig. So I look forward to, I know that the funding from the Slate people, that's good, and you're on your way, and I look forward to the Lee Aaron documentary. But I got to talk SCTV with you. I'm afraid I'm going to run out of time. So you produced the SCTV DVD release for The Second City. Tell me what you did with SCTV.
So I was one of the people that was the producer of putting that DVD collection out, which people had been waiting for like a million years. So my co-producer on that was Dick Blasucci, who was, as you know, one of the writers on SCTV, and then he went on to be the producer of Mad TV. So I had a new guy and an old guy working on that together. And it was a dream project just to go through all that stuff and all the archives and, look for things. And everyone wanted to see it. Like, it was something that people wanted. So whenever you said you were working on it, people were like, when is it coming out? I want it now.
Well, you know what else I want? I want Martin Scorsese. Does he take your calls?
No. When they filmed that thing, a couple years ago.
More than that. I think it's pre-pandemic.
Yeah, pre-pandemic. I ended up helping him up the stairs.
Scorsese.
Yeah, he's quite elderly, actually, in real. I'm not trying to diminish him or anything, but he was having trouble getting up the stairs. And so I kind of went over there and helped him. And I was like, wow, I did I was just asking some people in the know, like, what's going on with that SCTV Scorsese project? And nobody seems to know.
So I've only talked to a few people about it, but I talked to Dave Thomas.
What does he say?
He doesn't think it's ever coming out. But
does he say why?
He doesn't seem to. If he knows, he's not telling me. Like, if he has an idea of why, but he said it's sort of like Scorsese moved on to other projects. This thing got shelved, and so if there's a reason, like some business reason, like I'm just looking for something that will explain it. Like, oh, this was going to it was paid for by whoever, and they were going to coincide it with this, and then that got kiboshed. Therefore, the documentary got shelved.
I had wondered whether it was music royalty issues, which had been a huge issue with SCTV from day one. They just dropped the needle for that entire series and never licensed anything. And that's why when we put out the DVD, we had to hire a special person just to deal with the music licensing.
Who'd you hire? Is it David Quinton Steinberg?
No, it was someone and this person worked for a couple years and cleared it all up. But that's why certain sketches had to be cut out of the DVD release.
I'm thinking there's a great Rick Moranis sketch where he's Michael McDonald, I guess.
Yeah, the Doobie Brothers Carpets.
Right.
Yeah.
Like you got to pay for that song.
And then there's the Stairways to Heaven. Stairways to Heaven.
Right.
And so they ultimately couldn't get permission to do get permission for that song. So certain things were cut out of the DVD because of that. And I wondered if that came back to haunt or became just too expensive.
Yeah, because it got other beloved programs of the era like WKRP in Cincinnati.
Yeah, that took a long time. When I saw the actual recording of it, though, what that they did with all the cast members. And
this is the reunion.
Yeah, the reunion.
Which included Joe Flaherty, who's no longer with us. Shout out to Ridley Funeral Home.
Yeah, and Joe Flaherty. Joe told me a funny story one time about going to Ancaster for a Christmas dinner, a family thing, and he pulled up, got out of the car, and he realized that he wasn't wearing any shoes. He was in his sock feet. And that's just such a Joe Flaherty story, totally lovable Joe. But I don't know. I don't think this thing is going to come out. And I have to be honest, as an SCTV fan, it kind of felt like they were making a clip show.
But so you were there, just to, you were helping Scorsese up the stairs. So we know you were in the building.
Yeah, I was
you
in the
witnessed
building.
it. Because I have talked to many people, and we're going to do it right now with you, but who tell me it was great. So what is your honest assessment?
I was a little
of what you
more.
witnessed?
I was a little more meh.
Okay.
You know,
Underwhelmed.
Underwhelmed. Well, you know what it is.
Shout out to Sloan.
Well, it was sort of like the cast guys, cast members, all sort of told the same stories that they've been telling for years, and there wasn't any sort of like digging deeper into stuff. And there was a lot of good-natured camaraderie. Haha, remember when?
Right.
But there wasn't like anything sort of deeper, and I had kind of it just, you know, I wish Harold Ramis had been there. I just, you know, there wasn't anything deeper. And I want to mention that there's the famous British director-producer team known as the Archers. So that was Powell and Pressburger, and Scorsese loved them. And he released a film a year or two ago about them where he like dissects scenes in their films and says, hey, like, this really affected me, what I thought about directing. That's not, unfortunately, I think, what the SCTV thing was going to be. It was going to be more of a clip show, and I really wish that it was more of the Powell and Pressburger kind of thing.
Especially because they did get, as you know, because you were there, they got the aforementioned Rick Moranis to be there. And other than, I'm thinking Ian Thomas's son had a terrible accident, and there were some benefits for him that reunited Bob and Doug McKenzie. But other than that, and some beer commercials.
Yeah.
They got together for some beer commercials, but they probably did that remotely or whatever. But this was actually, you know, Rick Moranis back with the gang, and it's a very rare occurrence that we see that.
Yeah,
and,
I mean, when I talked to Rick on the phone for the DVD release, and he was just very polite and said he just really didn't want to participate in any extra features or anything for the DVD. And he was like the nicest guy in the world about it. But I was still kind of sad because I actually thought he would have some interesting observations.
Oh, sure. And we talked about Paul Myers earlier because you directed videos for him. And we talked about he's got a John Candy book coming out.
Yeah.
But, you know, John Candy, this larger-than-life, you know, figure who comes out at SCTV, even just to hear everybody talking about John, like that to me sounds like a documentary unto itself. Like you could carve out docs from this, and again, I've never seen the footage. I wasn't there. No one invited me. Can you believe it? Come on. But it sounds like you're a little underwhelmed, and maybe Scorsese was, and maybe a couple of business factors get involved. Maybe there's some music clearing thing, and then a domino effect is like, I'm moving on to other projects because Scorsese's always got other projects
14
on the go.
things on the go.
Like The Irishman takes some time because that movie takes time to watch.
Well, you know, I'm sort of surprised that they didn't finish it, though, because really they get a bunch of people together, put them on a big set, ask them a bunch of questions. They all tell some tales from the past. Everyone chuckles, then throw in some clips. I mean, like a junior producer could put that show together, really.
I was going to say, give this footage to Stu Stone. You know what? Give it to...
I can put it together.
You could put this together. Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, give it to Federgreen. You friendly with Avi Federgreen? Do you know this name?
No.
Prolific producer of films in this country.
Oh, I know who you're talking
so
about.
Avi Federgreen, who
Yeah.
his lawyer actually is a huge Toronto Mike fan. This is how I got connected to him.
Yeah.
And I guess he was talking to her about, he had a podcast idea, and she dropped my name, and I can't remember her name. It doesn't matter, but she loves the program, so hello to her. But I just launched a new show from Avi Federgreen called Unleashed, and it's basically he's shining a light on what he sees as the problems of the Canadian film industry.
Mm-hmm.
So you may be so interested, and he may be interested in even having you as a guest on the program, but it depends how much real talk you want to deliver. But like, do we have a problem with independent filmmaking in this country?
I'd probably be late for that one too.
We'd find you on a different numbered street.
Yeah.
We'd find you.
Well, you know, I mean, I'm old enough that I've lived through about 5 golden ages of documentary. And I've also lived through about 5, the documentary is dead periods. And I think we're kind of in a documentary is dead period right now. And a lot of sort of things going on, but streamers have really sort of upturned.
But there's a lot. But there is a lot. I don't know. I feel like there's a lot going on. Like this. Here's where just a couple of things that the listenership would be interested in is that they made a CFNY documentary, and that's currently shelved in Scotland or something.
Yeah.
Like that's done. And not that I heard that one might be underwhelming too.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of people. I mean, there's a lot of people that are out there doing like really cool, interesting docs. Think of Joel Goldberg doing things, right?
100%.
But it's
Shout out to James B.
But it's really hard to get your docs seen, and that is one of the big issues. Is the amount of places that video docs are being shown is getting smaller and smaller.
Right, like you said, TVO. It's like, how many outlets do we have? Unless you're the Tragically Hip, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You got to be a huge name like the Tragic. Although Blue Rodeos, I haven't seen it yet, but I had Greg Keeler on talking about it.
There's been a little flood of music documentaries in the past couple of years because I think a lot of doc funders have started to shy away from political or controversial docs. That's an issue.
Right.
And so now they're saying, oh, maybe we've done too many music docs now. So there's that sort of thing going on as well.
And are you aware of this 299 Queen Street West documentary?
I am aware. I would love to see it.
Well, I did see it at Roy Thompson Hall. This guy, Sean Menard is his name.
Yeah.
Young guy, he came over and we talked about it. So he's an FOTM like you, Scott. But he invited me to the premiere at Roy Thompson Hall. He rented out Roy Thompson Hall on a Friday night. It was fine. Like, it's a good nostalgic trip. A lot of good Ed Conroy Retro Ontario clips and a few legends printed. But it was more or less pretty the first half, anyways. And then it sort of became like a let's celebrate these big American stars who actually visited 299 Queen Street. So you get a lot of like Britney Spears and NSYNC and Beyonce or whatever. And I kind of was cold. That wasn't really what I was there for. But, you know, it was fine. And then it was going to drop on Crave, and it was promoted as such. And it was like, oh, Crave is going to have it on Friday or whatever. It never did drop on Crave. And this is now a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
So,
well, I mean, people say, oh, there's documentaries everywhere. But the reality is a lot of what people are calling documentaries now are really just true crime news magazine clip shows.
Right.
You know, or they're celebrity-driven, celebration fests. I mean, I mean, how many documentaries do we need that are executive produced?
Oh, like J-Lo's. Like,
by the person who's in the doc. I mean, to me, that's not necessarily a doc anymore.
You got the Prince news that came out last week?
Yeah.
Like, that's exact. So
I'm dying to see that project. I bet it's amazing.
Yeah, that's the warts and all real talk on Prince and the family and litigation and made a deal, and Netflix is not going to drop it. It was pretty long too, and it took a long time to make.
It's 5 hours.
Like, wouldn't you like to see warts and all 5 hours on Prince? Instead,
Prince is a complicated genius, no question.
No question.
So let's explore it.
Right.
So, but now we're going to get the official version, executive produced by the estate of Prince.
Yeah, and then you're never going to get the real talk.
No.
In that situation.
And also, let's say an artist spent like 5 or 6 years working on this project,
right,
for nothing.
Right. That's why I always wish maybe that guy leaves a hard drive in my driveway, and maybe I plug it in and I accidentally put it on my YouTube channel.
Is this going to be like the new Cocksucker Blues? Like, like pirated copies float around for years and years.
Right. Like the old Speaker's Corner outtakes or whatever.
But those guys, I mean, unless you have a celebrity attached to it, streamers kind of don't want to aren't interested in challenging docs anymore, and it's really
and they also
affecting.
They're risk averse when it comes to litigation.
They're risk averse to being having Donald Trump mad at them.
So true, man. What a shitty time to be alive. Like, really, now everything's got to go underground. If this is one of the last outlets where we'll dare talk about such things, right, Scott?
Well, and it's also when you've spent a lot of time, supporting good journalism over the years, say at the New York Times or the Washington Post. And then you discover that they both turtle and become like Trump ass kissers.
Oh, I know.
Same with Apple Computer, by the way, too.
No, you're 100% right.
There's Tim Cook right next to Trump at the inauguration.
Yeah, and even when and I don't have an American IP address, but I am told by people I trust, if I had an American IP address and I went to Google Maps, I would see the Gulf of America.
Yeah.
Like, that's there today. My goodness gracious. Okay. See, I just checked the clock here. So here's what we're going to do, because there are some points I still want to get with you, some fascinating things you've done I want to discuss. We'll have to be, quick here. But I want to say thank you to Nick Iones, the CEO of Fusion Corp Developments, Inc., who stepped up to fuel the real talk. He's got a great podcast called Building Toronto Skyline, and he made his Toronto Mic debut last week, and a lot of people are talking about it. There's warts and all, really. It was Nick Iones, warts and all. That was the 5-hour documentary on Nick Ianni's, and it wasn't some sanctioned, polished 90 minutes piece of bullshit there. So, take a listen and learn more about Nick, a real person who basically showed you his real self. That's all I'll say about that. Then I will also tell people, recyclemyelectronics.ca, and I know you, Scott, you collect old tech. What's your prized possession in your old tech bag? He's going into his bag.
That's funny you should mention that, because this is a product from the 70s, and it's a canvas bone, and it is called the bone phone. And these are very, very rare.
What does a bone phone do? I don't remember.
Well, I'm going to open it up, and I'm going to hand you the manual, because it has some amazing Farrah Fawcett-looking 70s people modeling it inside.
Wow, I don't even want to put my grease on this. I watch Antique Roadshow.
Yeah, well, this
on PBS. They say don't touch it.
So the bone phone was a 70s radio
Get that
system.
Oh, I see. You wear it like a
you wear it around your neck.
Yeah.
And it's like a towel, like as if you had a small towel around your neck.
Yeah.
And then because your body's sort of like an acoustic resonator, when you turn it on, the audio vibrates through your body and you hear it in your head.
The bone phone.
So you don't need headphones. An incredible product at the end of a certain sort of like technological thing, because about the time that this came out, the Sony Walkman 1 came out and totally killed it.
Right.
But yeah, so
So that's a 1979
Bone phone?
Bone phone. Okay, bone phone. That you got to keep that.
Why it's in a shaped like a bone? I guess because it rhymes with phone and nothing more.
It goes through your bone.
It goes through your bones into your
good name.
Inside of your head, and it works.
And it works.
And and it has all this cabling to attach it to yourself, which is really kind of like.
Oh yeah, I mean, now it's like you can use it to cycle, jog, walk, mow the lawn, spectator sports, walk the dog, ski, skate, work, or just relax. Like all those great things.
And if I'm not mistaken, I think it makes a great gift for mom, dad, sister, brother, uncle, aunt, grandpa, granddad, boss, coworker.
So that still works. So it's not going in the garbage anytime soon.
But if I had to, I'd take it to the recycling.
Yeah, recyclemyelectronics.ca is where you would go, Scott, to find out where to drop it off in your neighborhood to be properly. Where is your neighborhood these days?
I live in Junction Triangle.
Oh, it still took you a long time. You were still late. I feel like that's close. Close enough. Junction Triangle. West End. You should have been here. Are you going
to mention I was late anymore during this?
I think that's what I said. But I am enjoying my coffee, so you're forgiven.
Am I on the Late Show or just the Late Show?
Right. Craig Kilborn or whatever. Okay. Tell me, my friend, about the Church of Elvis. This is
oh God,
from 2012.
Yeah. So for Vision TV, I went and did like a 4-part series on the spiritual world of Elvis Presley. Traveled all through the southern U.S. and California as well, and Las Vegas, and sort of tried to look at Elvis as someone who became almost like a religious figure to the fans.
Sure.
And also a look at his own personal spiritual journey, which it was pretty trippy when you're Elvis and the whole world, you're one of the most recognized people in the world.
Yeah, no doubt. So I hope my buddy Elvis has checked out the Church of Elvis. Where would you see that today?
Well, I guess Vision TV, Moses was behind it, and I guess they still show it on, I'm sure there's some bootleg copies online because there's so many Elvis fans.
Right. So they'll make docs about Elvis because he's a big name. It's making so they will make a doc about Lee Aaron though?
Yes. I'm sure they will. I think Lee has an excellent story. I love that Lee is still making great music, still rocking.
She still looks great.
Oh, she is. She actually, people always think of, the music part of her world, but she is an absolute blast to hang with and talk to. She's really very funny, very witty, very smart.
No, big fan here.
Yeah. And making great music. Yeah, her guitar player, Sean Kelly, on, yes. I guess, at one point.
And we had the anniversary just like a couple of days ago. Absolutely, Sean Kelly's been over here. Big Lee Aaron fan here. What's the name of that doc going to be? Does it have a name?
Well, our working title is Test Your Metal.
Right. Good work on that metal there. I want to make a suggestion for the new title of your Lee Aaron documentary. You ready?
Yeah.
Just one word. Karen. Okay? Karen.
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think so.
Shot down. Okay.
I don't think so.
All right. So because we literally are in our last 5 minutes, Scott.
Yeah.
Wow. So I mean, maybe I almost should ask you which hotspots you want to get, but I do want to say you worked with FOTM Michael Voyevoda.
Yeah. Well, actually, here's something. You know, Mike and I are during COVID. We did a video for our good friend Catherine Rose. Music video for her, and he's been currently involved in this big box set thing and remix of the Plasticine Replicas.
Wow.
Box, sorry, not box, library of music, which he was a member of the band and he was also a producer of the band, and so they then decided, hey, let's do a little documentary about the replicas.
That's cool.
And so Mike and I are working together on that.
Yeah, he's a cool cat. I don't think he does many podcasts actually, so it was kind of an honor to have him. He's on a motorcycle, so
yeah.
he's like, he lives not too far from here, but he popped down. We had a great chat, you know, bare naked ladies and more. But it's worth mentioning that Getting Along, the video that with Mike, that Julian Taylor, FOTM Julian Taylor is featured on that song. Yeah,
another nice guy, a super guy. Yeah, and I thought the video turned out pretty good, actually.
Don't sound so surprised.
It won. No, it won a bunch of, not because of the people that were in it, but made during COVID-y kind of times. But it got a great response, and I don't know. Are you familiar with the replicas, Plasticine replicas?
Not enough. Like I feel like I need to educate.
Well, there's going to be a documentary coming down the pipe that Voyevoda and I are doing. So
well, you had me at hello.
Yeah.
You kidding me? So where, like, for the Lee Aaron doc and that doc and these docs you're working on, like, who distributes these docs? Like well, if TVO doesn't pick them up.
For the Lee Aaron project, you know, in this particular case, we're looking at, pitching to the Amazons and the Craves of the world.
Right.
And going that route.
Sure.
Possibly Doc Channel, the CBC Doc Channel. But that's where we're starting.
There, I think I was talking to Alan Zweig recently, and he was complaining that nobody would distribute a documentary he wanted to make about Stompin' Tom Connors. And he said there was, and I was thinking, because Stompin' Tom, that's a big name in this country, and Zweig's a good filmmaker. So it's tough times, I would think.
Alan, I know you're listening right now.
Oh, there's not. I was waiting for the message for Alan.
I know he's listening.
Do you and Alan get along?
Yeah.
Okay.
But we always have this sort of like close but distant kind of relationship at the same time. The Stompin' Tom thing, no, he's totally right about that. He's totally right about it. I mean, the number of venues and places to show docs is diminishing and getting smaller, just as the number of independent cinemas is getting smaller in the country. It's becoming a real challenge, and people are going to have to become their own distributors. Well, they already are becoming their own distributors, just to a large extent.
Or shout out to Hollywood Suite and David Kynes.
Yeah, they're helping.
They help my buddy Stu Stone.
And they support the review cinema. Thank you, Hollywood Suite.
David Kynes sponsored Toronto Mike. That's all I'll say. Okay, so I want to ask you one important question, and then I'll leave the floor to you for the last 5 minutes to basically whatever you want to talk about. I do want, because there's so much we could have covered. I mean, the Memphis Blues Society, there's so much I want to cover. But I do want to ask you if you like Italian food, Scott.
I love Italian food.
Would you take from me, if I were to gift it to you, a large lasagna? It is frozen in my freezer. That's where I put things that are frozen. Although you could put it outside today and it would freeze. But then the raccoons would eat it. But it is from Palma Pasta. Mississauga and Oakville institutions. I was at Palma's Kitchen on the weekend. Delicious. I got some arrabbiata sauce, actually, and it's unbelievable. That is empty, but it will be full when you leave. Would you like a lasagna, Scott?
I would love that. I always wondered whether you were just giving people empty boxes or not.
No. Every guest, you can confirm. Even Zweig will tell you that box is full when you leave.
I think Fergus Hambleton said to me yesterday that you gave him like a busload of stuff.
Well,
he said, "Oh yeah, you're going to get all this swag."
Fergus, fantastic. Love Fergus Hambleton. He got his Great Lakes beer like you did. He got his measuring tape from Ridley Funeral Home, and he got his lasagna. But he might have also got the Moneris giveaway, which is not currently active.
So people ask you about this?
They always make the same joke.
I know what it is.
Am I supposed to measure myself for my casket? That is the joke I get like 90% of the time.
Yeah.
You need to give me an original
I
joke,
know.
Scott.
I have a couple others, but I don't want to say them publicly.
Well, I usually hint at those because those are obvious. But okay, last 5 minutes. Firstly, how was this for you? Like, was this Toronto Mike debut everything you hoped it would be? That's
everything. I hope that we were going to discover tabletop fusion. So no, we didn't solve that. But other than that, it was fine. And if I hadn't been late, I should own up to it now. We probably would have solved that scientific mystery. And by the way, I just want to mention I just finished the Booker Prize book, Orbital. So for all you voyevodas out there that love space literature, it's great. I just want to plug that. It was good.
Well, you know what? Because I covered a lot of ground, but I didn't talk about Ear to the Ground. I didn't talk about Keep on Shucking for the Food Channel.
Yeah.
For television.
Yeah.
And I mentioned that you were nominated for a W.C. Handy Award.
Yeah, by the Memphis Blues Society. It's something I'm really proud of.
So this is the 5 minutes before I play the Rob Pruce cover of Lowest of the Lows, Rosie and Gray. This is the 5 minutes where you can share with me the things I didn't get to because I was rushing.
Yeah. Well, first off, I would like to discuss the origins and the causes of the Peloponnesian Wars, if that's okay with you.
You know what? I'll go to this romantic Valentine's Day lunch that my wife is taking me to, and I'll just leave it recording, and when I come back, I'll
still be here. Explain. Well, by then I'll be in the third Peloponnesian War because there was more than one, actually, for those that know.
Do you want to leave saying anything about Toronto politics?
Yeah. Oh, you were such a mind reader. So, like, you were going to say, like, what is the one message about Toronto politics that I would give to the world?
What is the one message about Toronto politics
I know
Scott Dobson would give to the world?
I, kind of feast and live on a lot of this stuff. I believe that the number one thing that has held Toronto back as a city in my lifetime is a lack of term limits on councillors. I'm not knocking councillors. There's been some fantastic ones over the years. But that said, you look at it even today, you wonder why we can't move forward on things that are so friggin' obvious that we need to deal with. And it's because there's people who've been on council for 30 years and have ideas from the 1950s. And so, that's what Anna Bilau said to me when she was the councillor. She said, three terms, you should run for mayor or get out. And I think she's right. If you can't do your mark in 12 years, then get out of the way and let someone else do it. And so that would be my number one thing to improve the city of Toronto for everyone, is to get new ideas in.
I think that's actually a really good idea, Scott, because it's very difficult to defeat an incumbent in municipal politics.
Name recognition.
Although Mark Grimes went down to Amber Morley last time.
Yeah, that was interesting.
That doesn't happen very often.
No, it doesn't.
I enjoyed this very much, Scott. There's
Me too.
a gentleman did send in a hello to you, and I got a little, I sensed a wink from it, so I'm wondering what you would say about this name. You ready? See, I saved this for the very end, so you can't storm out. But what would you say about the name Mark Weisblot, who says hello?
Oh, I know him.
Okay.
He's a smart cat.
He's listening too.
He's a smart cat.
He was so smart, I had him on every month for years.
Yeah, I remember.
3 hours.
Yeah.
Until he politely asked if he could stop coming over, and I realized I don't think I have the power to make him do this. But maybe I do.
Those were good. Those were good shows.
I agree. And if Mark is listening, and of course he's listening, anytime he wants to come back, we had this breakfast television upheaval.
Yeah.
Dramatic. Sid Seixeiro and FOT and Meredith Shaw out. They don't get to say goodbye. No more. Something new is in the works. And I was thinking, what would Mark have to say about this? And maybe he'll come by and tell us. So Mark Weisblot, get your ass over here. Scott Dobson, thanks so much. We'll take a photo by Toronto Tree. I'll get your lasagna, and then I'm off to my hot date. Thanks for doing this, buddy.
No problem.
And that brings us to the end of our 1,630th show. Go to torontomike.com for all your Toronto Mike needs. Much love to all who made this possible. That's Great Lakes Brewery, Palma Pasta, RecycleMyElectronics.ca, Building Toronto Skyline, and Ridley Funeral Home. I think Joel Greenberg, a conversation with him will be my next episode, dropping tomorrow. See you all then.